Roach, well, obviously he's a solid fighter. But for me, Tank Davis is in the elite class of boxing right now. You know, he's just in the higher altitudes of the sport. He's in the top 5 for me. You know, when you talk about the top 5 best pound for pound right now, you're saying so. And for me, he's there not just because he's a puncher, because he's an all-around package. You know, he can box, he can counterpunch, he can go get you, he can go to the body, go to the head, put punches together. His defense is responsible, he's patient, you know, he's mentally together. You know, he as I said, he's a top guy.
Teddy Atlas made bold claims, saying Gervonta Tank Davis is a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter. He believes Tank's skill set is too much for Lamont Roach, and that's why he is favoring him. Meanwhile, Kermel Moton had a different take. He recognized Roach as a solid fighter, moving up and chasing greatness. While Tank may have had other potential opponents, Roach stepped up when others didn't. Moton believes many are underestimating Roach, and that this fight could be more competitive than people expect.
Yeah, both of them is true. I feel like Lamont's definitely a solid opponent. You know, he's moving up. I feel like Tank, he tried to fight Loma, and I don't really know what happened with Shakur, but I know Loma didn't want to take the fight, but, and I don't really know what happened with Shakur. It just didn't fall through. So, you know, Lamont's a next solid opponent. You know, he's moving up. He's chasing greatness, and Lamont's a very solid fighter. You know, a lot of people are overlooking him. But it's definitely going to be a great fight.
Gary Russell Jr., however, sees the fight playing out differently. He expects Roach to have some early success, using his movement and boxing skills to keep things interesting. But that won't last. As the fight goes on, Russell believes Tank's physicality will take over, breaking Roach down and overwhelming him.
I think it's going to be interesting. Like I said before, I think it's going to be interesting. Probably for maybe the first half of the fight. You know, I think the first half of the fight is going to be a little interesting. I still think Tank is going to just be able to physically overwhelm Roach. You know what I'm saying? I think Roach is probably going to try to move out of box and stuff like that. But I think Tank is going to physically overwhelm him later on in the fight.
Gary Russell Jr. wasn't sold on Roach's chances. He called him flat-footed, slow, and lacking elite defense, the kind of fighter who won't trouble someone like Tank. In his eyes, Roach is exactly what he appears to be. No surprises, but he also pointed out a habit of Davis, giving away the first half of fights. If Roach can capitalize early, maybe he has a shot, but Russell didn't sound convinced it would matter in the end.
Roach is flat-footed. He's flat-footed, he's slow on his feet. He's not the fastest guy on his hands. He doesn't have like hellified defense or anything like that. What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get with these guys. When you're dealing with Tank, Tank, he gives away the first half of the fight.
Antonio Tarver saw things from a different angle. Looking at the circumstances, he felt Roach was the only real option left for Tank at this point. With other names out of the picture, this fight makes sense, especially for the culture. Roach is known in the DMV, and Tank is a superstar. Tarver expects Tank to show out, but for Roach, it's all about whether he can rise to the moment.
After further review, I think it probably was the only opponent. You know, with all the other guys, you know,
no Loma,
with everything being
Shakur
considered,
injured.
with everything being considered, it's probably the only guy that makes sense. You know, he's a regional American guy that we all know. You know, the hood know who Roach is.
DMV guy.
The culture know who Roach is. We
Goes
definitely know.
With Tank.
We definitely know who Tank is. So this would be one of those fights that, you know, Tank gonna be able to perform. Roach gonna have to be at his best. But Tank gonna perform.
But make no mistake, Tarver sees no upset coming. He doesn't believe Roach has what it takes to derail the Tank train. According to him, Davis is simply too complete. High IQ, great boxing skills, and a willingness to take risks most fighters wouldn't. The danger isn't just in Tank's power, it's in his mentality. He'll take a shot, but when he fires back, that's when things get dangerous.
I don't see an upset in this fight. I don't see the Tank train being derailed no time soon. You feel me? The guy's just, like I said, complete fighter, can do it all. Box got a high IQ, and he's a gambler in there. He take risks in the ring like nobody else. You know what I mean? You know, you get your shot off, but then he gonna get his off. And that's when shit get crazy. You feel me? When he start landing his. So, yeah, I can't wait for that fight, man. I hope Roach comes with his best game plan. And that's what these fighters are supposed to do.
And for Tarver, that's exactly why this fight is an uphill battle for Roach. Tank is a mountain to climb, and when he's locked in, beating him isn't just difficult, it might be impossible. Roach can bring his best, but if Tank is on his game, then it will be a brutal knockout for Roach.
I just think, you know, Tank is a big mountain to climb, man. And when he's on his game, he's hard to beat, if not impossible to beat.
Amir Khan didn't hesitate. He believes Tank destroys whoever stands in front of him. He sees no one in the division capable of stopping him, let alone Roach. Khan doubled down, saying Tank isn't just a good boxer, he's a beast who runs through opponents with ease.
I don't know much about Roach, but I know Tank Davis. Listen, Tank Davis, no one beating him. The guy is a beast. I mean, the guy's a good boxer. Yeah, the way he's been fighting, honestly, is yeah. I mean, whoever they put in front of him, he destroys.
But not everyone is buying the hype. Blair Cobbs didn't just question the fight, he called it unworthy of pay-per-view. He gave Tank his respect as an incredible fighter, but he wasn't convinced this matchup deserved fans' money. In his eyes, boxing fans need to take a stand and stop paying for fights that don't excite them. To him, Davis versus Roach is just another fight, not an event fans should be forced to buy.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean,
is it pay-per-view? Is it pay-per-view worthy?
Nah, not really. Not really pay-per-view worthy, but it's another fight for boxing, another fight for Gervonta Davis. Truly incredible fighter. But it's I don't think. I think if he's, this is something that fighters that the fans need to fight for. We need to start retaliating with our dollars, you know, and that means not paying for a Gervonta Davis, Lamont Roach.
Claressa Shields, however, pushed back on the criticism and reminded everyone that Roach has a decorated amateur background and isn't just some walkover opponent. Shields acknowledged that Tank is a dangerous fighter, a bad man who can do it all, but she also made it clear that Roach has the skills to make this fight interesting.
I don't know why everybody is kind of sleeping on Lamont, but he has a decorated amateur career too. He's a very sturdy kid. He's very skilled. You know, Tank is Tank. You know, and when I say Tank is Tank, I mean like he's a bad man. He can fight. He's tough.
Greg Hackett also weighed in and pointed out that Roach is only getting this shot because other top names weren't available. Shakur Stevenson and Edwin de los Santos are dealing with injuries, and others have different plans. But that doesn't mean Roach is a pushover. Hackett made it clear, Roach is no slouch, and people shouldn't sleep on him. He also hinted at something deeper, suggesting that Roach and Tank have a history that hasn't been fully talked about. With that backstory in play, Hackett believes this fight could be more competitive than most expect.
I mean, he's the opponent right now, you know what I mean? Because circumstances with other fighters, I think Shakur injured, De Los Santos injured, and other guys, I think, just got other plans, you know what I mean, to boil it all up. Roach is a sturdy opponent, though. Roach is no slouch. You know what I mean? You can't sleep on Roach. I know that. I know they also got history. I know, you know what I mean, there's also things they haven't talked about that they do know about each other. You know what I mean? So I think we in for a good fight for that alone.
Hackett further continued and emphasized the underrated skill set of Roach. He described him as a fundamentally sound inside fighter with a sharp jab and strong basics. While he may not have devastating knockout power, Hackett noted that Roach is capable of wearing opponents down and capitalizing on opportunities when they arise.
As far as his ability, Roach is a good inside fighter. You know what I mean? He got the good jab. He got the good basics. You know what I mean? Strong kid. Not the hardest puncher, but he will hurt you. And, you know, he doesn't have a flashy style. You know what I mean? He more so just getting in where he can find it. You know what I mean? Getting in where he can find it. trying to score shots. And I mean, if he can get the knockout, he will. Tank.
At the same time, Hackett acknowledged what makes Tank so dangerous and expressed that he possesses all the tools of an elite fighter. His footwork and movement allow him to close the distance with precision, and his ability to set traps makes him unpredictable. Hackett believes that while Roach is a strong and skilled opponent, Tank's combination of speed, power, and intelligence will make this fight a serious challenge for Roach.
Tank, we all know Tank, explosive, crafty, fast, good footwork, predator, so on and so forth. So it should be a good fight.
Salim Bey also weighed in and reminded everyone that Roach is still a world champion and cannot be overlooked. At the highest level, no fighter is easy to beat, and dismissing Roach outright would be a mistake. He also highlighted an underrated factor: familiarity. Tank and Roach have known each other since their early days in boxing, meaning there is no intimidation factor. That kind of comfort in the ring could change the dynamic of the fight. While Bey ultimately sees Tank coming out on top, he warns that Roach might make things much tougher than people expect.
You can't overlook anybody, especially not at the top level. Everybody knows how to fight, and Tank and Lamont Roach have been acquainted with each other since they were young fighters. And just coming up in the game and knowing each other, the comfortability, that's still something that can threaten one another. But I feel like Tank gonna come out on top at the end of the day. But Lamont's fight gives people, a tougher fight.
Dawood Bey added another layer to the fight. This is more than just another matchup. It's a DMV rivalry, with Roach representing Washington, D.C. and Tank coming out of Baltimore. There's a built-in history that adds tension. Bey, who has ties to Roach's camp, emphasized that neither fighter will back down. No one is coming to lay down. This is going to be a real fight. He fully expects a battle for as long as it lasts, with fireworks from both sides. Whether it ends early or goes the distance, Bey is confident that this fight will deliver. It's not just about belts or rankings, it's about pride.
I think if you understand the history of DC and Baltimore, and then I'm familiar with Roach and them camp a little bit, because I'm cool with people that's tight with them and stuff like that, so we all kind of encounter each other. I don't live nothing but 2.5 hours away, right? I wouldn't see none of them coming and laying down, and then Tank is Tank. I think you're going to get a DMV classic. Like, you're going to get a good fight. They're going to fight each other. Lamont going to fight Tank. You know what I'm saying? So for however long it lasts, or for however long this, the fireworks is, going off, he going to fight him. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he going to come out there to lay down.
Johnny Ortiz took on a different perspective, addressing the claims that Tank is cherry-picking opponents. He pointed out that big names don't always make the best fights. Sometimes skill matters more than popularity. Roach may not be a household name, but Ortiz reminded everyone that he is a world champion at 130 pounds and a legitimate contender. He dismissed the idea that Tank is avoiding tough fights, arguing that as the biggest name in American boxing today, Tank is in a position where every opponent will be scrutinized. To Ortiz, Roach is a deserving challenger, and the fight is not as simple as some critics make it seem.
Because certain brands, when it comes to like bigger names, don't mean it's always the best fight when it comes to skill, and that's where I get where you coming from. But Lamont Roach, we know he don't got a big name. Good fighter, champion at 130. The thing is, when it comes to Lamont Roach, here is where I say, but people don't know, they'd be like Tank is cherry picking, but how is Tank cherry picking when literally he's supposed to be right now like the face of boxing right now, like most popular, especially Black American.
However, Ortiz wasn't convinced Roach has enough to truly trouble Tank. He credited Roach as a well-rounded boxer, but questioned whether he had anything to make Tank respect him. Without the power or unique skill set to keep Tank cautious, Ortiz sees a clear outcome. Tank will walk through Roach and stop him in the mid-rounds. In his view, Roach can box, but against someone like Tank, that won't be enough. If Roach can't hurt him, he won't survive for long.
Lamont could box, he's an all-around good boxer, but I don't think he has anything to make Tank respect him, so I expect Tank to stop him mid-rounds.
Even Tank's own trainer, Calvin Ford, acknowledged that this fight could be more interesting than people expect. He pointed out that Tank and Roach have known each other for years, which adds a different dynamic to the fight. When two fighters are familiar with each other's style, it can make things unpredictable. Ford hinted that Roach may have insights on Tank that other opponents didn't, making him a trickier challenge. However, despite the familiarity, Ford remains confident that Tank's ability, explosiveness, and fight IQ will ultimately secure him the victory.
Gervonta Tank Davis just been released to the public. We know now, December 14th, Houston, Texas, he's going to be facing a very tough opponent in Lamont Roach. Can you tell us a little bit about the history between them two?
Oh man, they've been knowing each other from the amateurs, silver gloves, everything. They grew up actually together, you know. Roach and him back and forth battles and whatnot. It's gonna be a pretty interesting fight, you know what I'm saying? Because Roach he come to fight. And I think it's a great fight. Everybody talking all that stuff about why Roach? Because he signed and took the fight, you know what I'm saying? And it's good for the community.
Meanwhile, Haven Brady Jr. looked at the fight from a different angle, how it affects the 130-pound division. With Roach moving up, his title at super featherweight is now vacant, creating an opportunity for fighters like Brady. He admitted he wasn't expecting Roach to take such a risky fight, but acknowledged that Roach has solid boxing skills. However, like many others, Brady sees this fight ending the same way most Tank fights do, Tank breaking Roach down and stopping him in the mid to late rounds. He respects Roach's ability, but when it comes to power and pressure, he believes Tank will be too much to handle.
It could be at 130 or 135.
135.
135, yeah. I definitely gonna love that because I mean that belt get vacated at 130. So I've been waiting on that. That's why I wasn't sure when it said Gervonta Davis WBA title, so I knew they were gonna move it to 135, but I ain't know Lamont Roach was gonna move up and fight somebody like that. So I definitely think that's a good fight. I mean, I feel like Tank gonna break him down and probably stop him like he always do, but I feel like Lamont Roach, he can box pretty good, so it's gonna be a little harder.
Brady also highlighted something many of Tank's past opponents have fallen victim to: fear. He explained that Tank has a way of sensing hesitation and weakness in the ring, and once he does, it's only a matter of time before he closes the show. He pointed to past fights, including Frank Martin, where Tank's demeanor changes the moment he knows he has his opponent broken. If Roach enters the ring without complete belief in himself, Brady sees this fight ending quickly. However, if Roach fights with confidence and refuses to be intimidated, he could at least make it a long and difficult night for Tank.
The thing is, when people fight Tank, it's a matter if they scared or not. If you go in there scared, he see the fear in you, and it's a matter of time before he take you out. You can see in the Frank Martin fights and a lot of fights, when he starts smiling and stuff, he know he got to you. So if Lamont Roach going in there with the thing that he trying to win and he the best guy, then it could be a long night.
Caleb Plant, a former world champion, sees this as an exciting fight for the East Coast boxing scene. Having grown up with Roach in the amateur circuit, Plant respects his skills and believes he will bring a competitive edge to the matchup. While many are dismissing Roach's chances, Plant knows firsthand that Roach is a technically sound fighter who won't back down easily. He expects an exciting fight and believes Roach will show more than people anticipate. However, even with his respect for Roach, Plant understands the challenge ahead. Tank remains the heavy favorite, and overcoming him is no easy task.
I mean, it's an exciting fight, especially for the East Coast. And, you know, Roach is a great fighter. Grew up with him in the amateurs and, you know, hell of a guy, hell of a boxer. So I think it'll be exciting.
Bozy Ennis, one of boxing's most respected trainers, echoed a similar sentiment. He sees this as a good fight, but ultimately leans toward Tank. While he acknowledged Roach's skill and toughness, he believes that Tank's explosiveness, ring IQ, and ability to adjust mid-fight will be the difference. Ennis expects Roach to show up and fight hard, but at the end of the day, he sees Tank as the superior fighter who will find a way to win.
What, Lamont and Tank? I think that's gonna be a good fight, man. I think it'd be a good fight, man. Him and Tank. I think it'd be a real good fight, man. You know what I mean? I think I would have to go with Tank, though. I would have to go with Tank. You know what I mean? But I think it's a real good fight. You know what I mean?
Ennis took a tactical approach, explaining what it takes to survive against Tank. Trading punches with him is a recipe for disaster. Fighters need to box smart, move constantly, and tie him up when necessary. He pointed out that frustrating Tank by making him miss, forcing him to drop his guard, and avoiding unnecessary exchanges is key. However, the challenge is that Tank sets traps in ways that most opponents don't see coming. Ennis warned that even if a fighter seems to be outboxing Tank for a few rounds, if they don't have the power to keep him honest, they're in trouble. He made it clear, if Roach can't hurt Tank, it's only a matter of time before he gets caught, and when that happens, a knockout is inevitable.
What does he need to do to make this competitive?
Hey, with Tank, you don't trade with him. You got to box. Box, move, tie him up. You know what I mean? Walk him around, frustrate him. You know what I mean? Let him drop his guards. You know what I mean? He can drop his guards, and then you do take it. But it's difficult when you fighting Tank, man. It's difficult when you fighting him because Tank sets you up with all types of shots, man. You can be beating Tank, man. Hitting him with all kinds. If you can't punch, you're in trouble.
Facts.
You know what I mean? But with Tank, you might as well say, man, it's gonna be a knockout.
Conor Benn took a completely different stance, calling out Tank Davis for avoiding tougher opponents. While many have debated Roach's credibility as a challenger, Benn dismissed the fight altogether, questioning why Tank isn't facing names like Shakur Stevenson. He suggested that Tank is ducking real challenges while still trying to maintain his superstar status. Benn didn't hold back, criticizing the way Tank's team promotes fights. He accused them of hyping up matchups while avoiding serious threats, all while cashing in on easier opponents. To Benn, this isn't about legacy or competition. It's about carefully managing risk while selling fans a narrative that doesn't match reality.
I don't know Lamont Roach, but you know, when you look at Shakur Stevenson, when you're looking at, you know, these other fights that he should really be fighting, you know, he don't want to do them fights. He wants to retire. Yeah. So don't come and but don't come at me and go, oh yeah, let's give it all, you know, very big bollocks and go, oh yeah, let's give him some stick and then make out like we want the fight. And then we send an offer over and then you fight for 15 million and yet you fight Lamont Roach. Don't do all that.
Mario Barrios took a more neutral stance, defending Tank Davis against criticism while acknowledging the realities of boxing. He pointed out that no matter who Tank fights, boxing fans will always have opinions. Some will approve, others will discredit the matchup. In his view, it's impossible to please everyone in the sport. Barrios compared Tank to Canelo Alvarez, suggesting that Davis has reached a level where he controls his own career and can pick his opponents without having to prove himself to anyone. He believes Tank has already accomplished enough and earned the right to move in any direction he chooses. While some may question whether Roach is a worthy challenger, Barrios sees it differently. As long as the fight is entertaining, it's still a valid matchup.
I don't know, you know, I always say all the time, you know, boxing fans. You know, everyone's always, you know, so opinionated, you know, it doesn't matter. Boxing fans are just like so hard to please, you know, it doesn't matter who you fight. You know, all that matters is, you know, Tank is doing his thing. You know, he's, you know, I feel like he has, you know, proved more than enough. And, you know, he's kind of getting to that stage where, you know, it's like Canelo, you know, he can call, you know, whatever shots, you know, he wants. He can move in whatever direction he wants to move. And, I mean, I don't think that was a bad fight. You know, I think, you know, it's still a really entertaining fight. But yeah.
The fight between Gervonta, Tank Davis, and Lamont Roach presents an intriguing dynamic, but at its core, many see it as another routine win for Tank. Davis is the heavy favorite, boasting elite power, ring IQ, and a proven ability to dismantle opponents when he finds his rhythm. Roach, on the other hand, is a technically sound and disciplined fighter, but he lacks the explosiveness and finishing ability that could genuinely trouble a fighter of Tank's caliber. While some argue that Roach's familiarity with Tank and his solid boxing skills could allow him to survive longer than expected, the general consensus is that Tank's firepower will eventually be too much. Unless Roach can execute a near-perfect strategy, frustrate Tank, and keep him off balance, it's hard to see an outcome where Davis doesn't walk away with another knockout victory. Ultimately, this fight is about whether Roach can make it competitive or if it will be another highlight reel finish for one of boxing's biggest stars. What do you think about this fight? Is this matchup more competitive than people expect, or will Tank dominate from start to finish. Does Roach have the skills and durability to last all 12 rounds? Or is he destined to be another victim of Tank's brutal knockout power? Should Tank be facing bigger names instead of Roach? And if so, who would be a better opponent? And if Roach manages to pull off an upset, how would that change the landscape of the division? And where would he rank among boxing's elite? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below and tune in for more videos like this.